It might be time for the Republicans to just say enough, no mas. Thanks for joining State of Mind. I am Dan Yorke. We're here every night at 7:30, and thanks for the growing audience and spread the word. And we got a lot of work to do tonight. Dr. Mark Janess from the Naval War College is here. He's got time on his hands because he's not working. He's furloughed. He's a very bright mind on all things international, and we always go to him around here to ask about things like Syria and our strategies abroad. I'm sure he's got some things to say and give us a little insight as to how it's going down in Newport right now with everybody semi-laid off. So we'll get to that, but let's get to the rundown because we have just so much to do tonight. You know, I'm thinking it's time for the Republicans to cry uncle. I talked about it on the radio show today and got a little pushback from people, but I'm really committed to the concept. I'll tell you why. And look, it's getting to the point where the closure is affecting the really important stuff. And there's a little bit of sentiment growing in Washington right now that perhaps the lawmakers ought to pay a little attention to. The health exchanges, by the way, didn't do so good on day one. Technical glitches, I think it's worse than that. Back here at home, the AR-15 raffle by the local Republicans has got everybody up in arms. And guess what? It looks like we're going to improve communications from the Kent County Water Authority. You think that's enough? Let's get to it. All right, top of our news today, time to cry uncle as far as I'm concerned. Here's a headline from the Washington Post this morning. Washington braces for prolonged budget battle. And of course, the president had a lot to say yesterday in the Rose Garden. Here's something that we haven't used here on the show, but highlights, you know, the Lions and Tigers and Bears worries that he's trying to, really have settled in through the country.
The last time Republicans even threatened this course of action, many of you remember, back in 2011. Our economy staggered. Our credit rating was downgraded for the first time. If they go through with it this time and force the United States to default on its obligations for the first time in history, it'd be far more dangerous than a government shutdown, as bad as a shutdown is. It would be an economic shutdown.
Well, look, you know, he's talking about October 17th. Right now, we're in a shutdown. Distinguish between the two. We passed the shutdown deadline. We did not get a continuing resolution to fund the government, and we end up now looking toward October 17th. My thought is, and I'll explain a little further here as we go, my thought is that the Republicans are going to have to make a gut call here. There's an analogy I want to offer, and I'll offer that to you here momentarily, but you know, amongst the shutdown issues, I mean, you saw some tough veterans video yesterday, and now, guess what? Come weekend time, all this stuff is going to start to resonate a little bit because we have football problems. Yeah, we got football problems. We have armed services football problems. BC is hosting Army this weekend. This was last year's game. Navy and Air Force are scheduled for this weekend as well, and those games are right now on hold. And you ask, well, why is that? Because all of the personnel, the athletic directors, the sports information directors, the coaches, the people who support the teams, all of that, they're all temporarily fired. They're not working. So there's a little bit of no real-life example about how this is going to impact. And, of course, that has economic impact for the vendors and the parking lot attendants. And then there's the quality of life issues that people are going to start to really bark about. And you're starting to see the sentiment really come true, even in Washington at the local bakeries. This is a cool one. I just caught this one for me today, and you can hardly ignore it. The furlough dough, yeah, guess what? We found this little piece online today. The bakeries in Washington are giving some free donuts and stuff, apple turnovers, that kind of thing, to the furloughed employees, some of which you see in line right here. You know, a little bit of empathy. Now, how are they making up for their profits? They're charging the lawmakers more dough. In other words, you know, free for you, double for you, depending if you're furloughed or a lawmaker. And that comes to sentiment. And I just want to say this about the whole thing. I don't blame the Republicans and even the right-wingers for doing what they did, trying to defund Obamacare and holding up the continuing resolution to keep the government open. It was a play. You ever play any poker? You got two pair in your hand, they're modest. Well, Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader, had full house in his hand, and every time they tried to raise the ante, he just called their bluff. Sometimes when you lose in a poker hand, you got to walk away from the table, go get some more chips and come back. The more chips and come back dynamic is 2014. Because right now they look like a bunch of weaklings. It's like Mr. Majority Leader, if you won't negotiate with us, what good is that? This guy won. Why would he negotiate with them? Why would he bother? And now they're looking for tidbits. Well, we just like the veterans taken care of. Maybe we want the football game to be taken care of. Maybe we want this to be taken care of. In other words, their shutdown of government, they want to piecemeal away because they know they're in hot water with you. Look, Obamacare's got some big problems. But right now, the biggest problem for the Republicans is that they're losing equity with the country. Now, the health exchanges that started yesterday, they were busting up all over Kingdom Come. I saw some data where in some states, some 60,000 folks try to get on the health exchange for information about a new health care plan, and 1,000 were able to actually register online. This is not a temporary glitch. Even though the Chicago Tribune would suggest that they are glitches, listen, it seems to me, and the more reading I do on this, the more we're going to find out that these systems may not talk to each other very well, and that the whole thing might not be able to do what they promise it will do, meaning all the computer machinations that go along with this. Now, this is the Rhode Island, Health Source Rhode Island site that actually went down itself. That's being managed by Rhode Island. We're a leader, but all across the country, there's a lot of get into the federal system type stuff going on, and the thing is busting all over Kingdom Come. Look, at the end of the day, this Obamacare thing is going to rise or fall on the costs, the health care, and whether or not the computer systems work. If they don't work, 2014, it's going to be a piece of cake for the Republicans to blow this thing sky high. Alrighty, let's move on to some of the other things that are going on, including this AR-15 silliness. This is just crazy. We talked about it last night. You've got the state Republican Party that's got a raffle and a hot dog day, you know, hot dog hamburgers for the kids and everything else at a local gun shooting place. What do you call them? What do you call them? What do you call them, guys? Yeah, they go, a gun club, you know, in South County. Thank you, Jeff. This is what happens when you ad-lib your television show. They've got this AR-15 raffle, and it's crazy. And this guy, Steve Tetzner, the finance chairman for the state Republican Party, told Eyewitness News, you know, how it kind of came about here.
And again, there was never any intent to offend anybody, but within the community or the group of people that we were focusing this event toward, that is the most popular type of firearm that these people would go out and purchase, would want to win in a raffle. So if you want to sell raffle tickets to that group of people, that's the type of prize that you would put in.
Yeah, okay, well, look, you know what, this is a political thing. Everything that you do is political. He told me today on the radio that there were 6 people around the table that made a decision on this, and no one actually thought, geez, this is a bad idea, like Alan Fung instinctively reacted to last night on last night's program. I said that twice. First of all, your party, well, they're running a fundraiser and they're raffling off an AR-15.
Yeah, no,
is there a missing chromosome there, or what's going on?
And this is the thing. I'm also a Second Amendment guy, but I'm also a former criminal prosecutor too, and I've got strong reservations about raffling off a semi-automatic. It's not something I would personally do or encourage anyone to do. So
does half the world. So I asked this guy, Mr. Tetzner, today on the radio show, bang, 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 revisit, whatever, listen. Bottom line here, you're not switching gears.
Not going to happen.
That your potential lead gubernatorial candidate and a potential attorney general candidate have weighed in almost embarrassed about this doesn't impact what you're thinking.
I have the utmost respect for both of them. They have my full support. This is not something that is associated with their campaigns. This is not something that, again, was designed to be a political event. It's a fundraiser to appeal to people that have a common interest in shooting. That's all it is.
And you have no instinct to retract, regroup, change gears, and salvage the image challenge that you have here.
I don't believe we're going to, Dan. No. I mean, unless I'm instructed to by someone in the party that has, you know, that authority. My intention is that we're going to move forward with our event, and we hope to have a lot of people come out. We're going to have a fun, safe family day, and we're going to make sure that everything is handled very responsibly.
Here's the point. There's no guru to tell them, you know what, we made a mistake. make this raffle go away. And it can. No guru, no leadership, no vision, no nothing with this local Republican Party right now. And finally, at least there is a little leadership. The PUC, Public Utilities Commission, brought everybody together from the Kent County Water Authority. Guess what? Could have had a V8. The Emergency Management Agency, the EMA here in the state, they are going to take care of letting people know when they've got a boil water alert. So the Kent County Water Authority can call the EMA and say, help. And guess what? They'll be able to, just like all of us thought it could happen. But at least they're solving a problem. For that, they get the good award and a little bit of a clap from me today. This is me clapping. All right, Mark Janess from the Naval War College. I wonder if he's clapping. He's got some free time because he's off today. Stay with us. So it's football, Boston College and Army, and there's a couple of professors that had a little free time today. Professor Mark Janess from Naval War College is here, no stranger to all the media because he's a go-to guy on things that really, really matter, like international policy and security and all that kind of stuff. Welcome, thanks.
My pleasure.
Did you sleep in this morning?
Yes, in fact, I did.
You actually did.
Yes, I did.
What was that like when they gave you a little notice that, Professor, no classes today?
It's frustrating because we had to go through sequestration earlier in the year.
Yeah.
So for 6 weeks, we had 25% of our pay taken away. And now this. So it's hard to take the people in Washington too seriously when they keep playing games with our paychecks.
That's a strong statement.
Yes, it is.
Now, do you need to use your disqualifier, or you better do that fast before I get you in the hot water. Your disclaimer, rather, not disqualifier, but disclaimer.
My views are my own and don't represent the Department of Defense or the U.S. government.
Sounds like a tweet disclaimer, that kind of thing. People angry?
Yes, they are, and they have every right to be. You accept that when you go into federal service, you're going to be paid a little less. There's going to be some job security there.
Yeah.
And these are serious people doing serious work. And to have our pay cut arbitrarily because the politicians can't do their job. And ironically enough, they're not cutting their own pay. So I suffer for their incompetence.
People forget that we had this sequestration and then you got hit once. So this is a double whammy in a relatively short period of time.
Yes, it is, in a matter of a couple of months.
The operations at the college just stop?
Well, we can continue classes until the end of the week with our military partners taking over for the rest of the week. But then all classes have to stop because the civilians are the academics there and they cannot continue courses after this week.
And clarify for everybody what the Naval War College does and its role in the entire mix with the Navy.
What we do is we take officers from every branch of the United States military, as well as our key allies from all over the world, as well as our executive departments like the Central Intelligence Agency, the Department of State, Department of Justice, Treasury, all those interagency groups, and they come to the Naval War College and receive a master's degree in national security and strategic studies. And this is the core course that the military wants their top leaders to take.
All right. Since you've been aggressive with your disposition on this, let me ask you, who do you think the good guys and the bad guys are right now over this whole thing?
I think they're all bad guys, and I think they're all being irresponsible. I think from the very top, the president has to come and negotiate in good faith. I think the Republicans have, like you said earlier, have pushed way too much, and now it's time to compromise. So I say a pox on both their houses, and that they were elected to actually produce things, not just stay in this kind of stagnated stalemate that hurts, literally hurts individuals who depend on the government for not only services, but then provide services to the government and are paid.
The president has not had a very welcoming disposition with Congress, period. So he's got a tone where there's not much talking going on. In this last particular situation, I don't blame the aggressive conservative Republican wing, if you will. There's all sorts of names the Democrats attached to them, right? Anarchists, extremists, and the like. I don't blame them for playing their cards hard. But you got to know that Harry Reid called their bluff. The cards went down. They had bad two-pair. He had a full house. Chips get moved. Whatever. Now they look like they're groveling. Well, can you at least come talk to us? Why would they come talk to you when they just beat you? So it seems to me the Republicans at this point have to say, All right, we'll live for another day. And let Obamacare, which is the central complaint here, that is the catalyst for the continuing resolution not being passed, let that be a 2014 rally cry in the election. I don't know how else we're going to get past this whole thing.
Look, I teach military strategy for a living. And one of the things we teach our students, the art of war, and you never go to war unless you know what you want to achieve and how you're going to achieve it. Here, the Republicans have gone to political war without a strategy to achieve an end. They're not thinking the end game. They're thinking that the Democrats are going to capitulate, and if they don't have any options, and they've left themselves open to real good criticism here.
And I think as people pay attention to the football game, your employees, school, all the things that are going to come apparent with this government closure, it's going to be a Republican uphill battle to actually gain some equity back with the American people over 2014, don't you think?
Well, I think the irony is they were winning the political battle over health care, over Obamacare.
Right.
And they have undercut their victory.
The health exchanges aren't working on day one, and that became the steep second story to the idea that the whole damn thing is closed.
You know the old adage, when your enemy is committing suicide, you stand back and allow them to do so?
Right. That's what the
Republicans are doing right now.
Well, there's other important stuff going on in the world. It's amazing how you wipe Syria off the news in one fell swoop. But this guy's got a lot of insight on that, and we need to pick his brain, and we will next. Stay with us. You know, it was interesting the other night or the other afternoon, we were waiting for the president to speak in the Rose Garden about all of this financial stuff and the government shutdown. And he was late, and I was thinking he was late because Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking at the United Nations, and he didn't want to step on the national coverage there. But, oh yeah, Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking about things that matter internationally and talking about, you know, nuclear issues with Iran and drawing more red lines. And it's amazing how Syria, Iran, and the entire stuff of that you're expert on comes right off the front page. It's amazing, isn't it?
It is, and it just goes to show you that serious matters that need attention are being thrown to the wayside because of the domestic political battles that both sides, if they acted like mature adults, could resolve in a matter of minutes.
I'm glad you said both sides, because one of the things that the president has been doing here is talking about adulthood when it comes only to the Republicans. And it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too. This is not just those guys behaving badly, but talk to me about the realities. First in Syria, as this whole thing is beginning to reform itself, a chemical weapons strategy, which is tentative at best, probably impossible to execute, and will leave us right back in some kind of Obama-ish, ultimatum-ish type of position. What?
Well, I mean, that's the problem. I don't blame the Obama administration for negotiating and for allowing even Russia to take a step in here, because Syria has essentially two supporters, Iran and Russia. And you can't resolve that issue unless you have those two as brokers, as honest brokers. The problem is that you're giving Assad time now to build up his forces. You're undermining the Free Syrian Army, the rebels, and they're now looking as if they have been left aside by the West, and that is actually helping al-Qaeda and the more radical Salafists in Syria to gain more prestige and more momentum. And the key here for Syria is the United States has two interests. One, keep chemical weapons outside of the hands of radicals. And two, to topple Assad. Those are the two stated goals that the administration has enunciated over the last year. The key problem here is, are we moving toward those two goals, or are we undercutting those goals?
Well, it seems to me you can't topple Assad when you're negotiating with Assad. And if Assad even gets close to doing what he's supposed to be doing under a new agreement on chemical weapons, all you've done is prop him up.
Right.
There's no easy answers.
No, there isn't. In fact, there's a very logical answer to say, as bad as Assad is, the worst alternative for the United States and the region is actually having radical Salafists affiliated with al-Qaeda taking over in Syria.
Is it just fair to say, although we don't like to admit it, that democracy doesn't necessarily work in some areas of the world?
Oh, absolutely. Look, why does democracy work in the United States, for example? Because we're a unipolar ideological spectrum. Yes, we had significant differences between Democrats and Republicans, but Democrats, when they lose elections, don't go to the hinterland and start a revolution, and nor do Republicans. There's a difference, but both sides can live with one another. Other countries, you don't have that.
Short on Iran, like in a minute's time. What next?
Well, that's the problem. The charm offensive taken on by the president of Iran has undercut U.S. ability to really put the screws to the Iranians.
We'll never use nuclear weapons. We'll never develop them.
Well, they're even denying that they have them.
Right.
So this is a brilliant strategy on the part of Iran. I mean, this is the great Persian Empire of the past. They know international politics. And it's forced the administration to take Iran more seriously and allow avenues for diplomacy to work through their course. The problem with that is delay, delay, delay allows Iran to build, build, build. And time is on Iran's side. The more they can delay and use the diplomatic channels to keep sanctions in place, or to not have sanctions cripple the economy even more, or have anyone attack their facilities, the more time they have to actually develop the weapon systems.
Which means Mr. Netanyahu is going to be paying very close attention.
Well, Israel is a wild card. Will they stand by and allow this to occur?
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
We'll need you more. You've got some time. I hope you get back to work soon.
Me too.
Thank you, Professor Genest. Final word on Your State of Mind next. On the State of Mind call-in line, Rocco reacted to Mayor Fung's visit last night.
I listened to the interview with Mayor Fung. I think that he should stay in Cranston and clean up the mess here before he decides to move on to be governor.
Stay there. If he's got a mess, he's been there, whatever. Your State of Mind, call me on that number, 228-1886, or there's the email. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7:30 on myRITV. Good night.